This year I started putting more work into writing a video game. It's a visual novel about Japanese office workers facing down the end of the world. I got started on the script last year, but only recently hit a point in the process where the characters' personalities are really starting to solidify. Around the same time, I got the idea for my next video essay, Illusion of Gaia, a game about children facing down the end of the world. I played through the English and Japanese versions again, took plenty of notes, and started writing. But on May 15th of this year, both of these projects ground to a screeching halt. Why, you ask? Well, it was Final Fantasy XI's 24th anniversary, and the campaigns were numerous and unrelenting. As a drinker, I was more or less a functional alcoholic. Bills got paid on time, the fryer got cleaned regularly, and things generally ran smoothly, even if I was lying face down on the floor at the end of the night. The tiny lizard piloting my body knew that certain things had to get done, independent of whatever state of consciousness or coherence I happened to be in. The stark realization that set in last month when FF11 got its hooks back into me was, uh-oh. The revelation I received was, it's not just alcohol. I am a functional addict in general. As I began giving all of my free time to the game, I noticed all of my old behaviors creeping back in. And sure, as a functional addict, I was fulfilling all of my freelance assignments, my podcast duties, the laundry, the cleaning, the dishes. But instead of then using my leisure time to chip away at personal projects, I was logged back into Vana'diel before I was aware any decision had been made. There is a part of me that insists on maximizing value. My grandfather was born during the Great Depression, and even into his adult years was heard to say things like, "Yes, I'm gonna eat the rind, I paid for the whole goddamn watermelon." There is undoubtedly some vestigial remnant of this upbringing inside my DNA that unironically insists, well, I've already paid for the entire month, it would be a waste to not be constantly grinding heavy metal plates every waking moment. And as I covered in my video essay about FFs 11 and 14, this behavior is much more easily enabled in the former. Simply put, FF14 has a more modern design philosophy that makes it easier to step away from the game once you've exhausted your bonuses and loot limits. FF11 is functionally infinite. There is content upon content upon content, always something to be grinded and no shortage of leveling to be done. Most players don't even reach the current level cap of Master Level 50. It's a game that really begins at level 99 and only ends when the player says, I feel like doing something else now. It sounds fun being a functional addict. You get to indulge in your behemoth-sized vice while still doing the bare minimum required to maintain that lifestyle. But the bare minimum is just that. You're not really doing anything else. I was very good at being a fun drunk who runs a bar during business hours. My personal relationships outside of working hours suffered because I was no longer emotionally, or in some cases physically, present. When FF11 sank its fangs into me again, I immediately recognized the sensation, a constant craving to have my brain massaged by the endless grind. I was getting the bare minimum done, but my professional aspirations and obligations beyond that were almost immediately supplanted to make room for more 11. This was easier to shrug off with FF14 and drinking. I was the video game bar guy. Of course I'm gonna drink and play video games. But for some people, those things share a potent comorbidity. They feed voraciously on each other before turning on you. In my right mind, I know that marriage of shochu and FF14 that caused the hours to blend into days is not something I ever want to experience again. But the moment I tasted that first gear upgrade back in FF11, a quieter part of my brain sheepishly but undeniably whispered, "Give me another hit." As with drinking, FF11 becomes an unending chain of just one more. Only instead of just one more drink, it's just one more level and then I'll take a break. But then you gain that level and realize you now almost have enough materials to upgrade a piece of armor. I'll just finish that upgrade and then go to bed. By the time you upgrade that piece, your friends have logged on and asked you to do some sortie or ambuscade or any other content, and you reflect on how rare it is for you all to be on at the same time, so you say, sure, I've functioned on 3 hours of sleep before, it's not a big deal. Setting hard limits is a skill that takes some time to cultivate. Let me illustrate exactly how destructive this was. I was lucid enough during the half-price month for FF14 subscribers returning to 11 to know that I wanted this to be the focus of this episode. The idea that replacing one addiction with another is not just a lateral move, but in some cases an actual danger. So I opened up a document, hammered out a thesis and a couple sentences, and then went back to the game. 3 weeks later, I was forcibly logged out because my subscription had expired. I blinked, snapped out of my stupor, pulled up the document, and hammered out the rest of this script in 45 minutes. Be careful, I guess is what I'm saying. Have a handle on your behaviors, have an understanding of what to you is habit forming, and do not use it as a replacement for another dependency. I don't want to give up FF11 entirely, but I'm in a weird place now where I have to figure out, is there an acceptable time for me to play a game like this? Do I get a month of FF11 sometimes as a treat for finishing large projects? Or am I simply waiting until retirement to be the weird old guy in the JRPG wing of the home who's multi-boxing to grind out another pulse weapon? I think we know that the sensible answer is just learn to control yourself, you ding-dong. You quit alcohol. I did. But 11 deviously fills a similar stress relief niche that has remained largely unattended for the past 6 years. Past me is writing this line into the script to keep present me honest with you. As I write this, I am unsubscribed from Final Fantasy XI. As I sit down to record this, I am fill in the blank. Oh, I resubbed immediately after finishing this script. I'm still making spreadsheets to track JSE and Coalition progress and logging in first thing in the morning to check my auctions when I'm supposed to be posting real auctions to try and sell leftover bar stock. However, it is not an insignificant thing that I ripped myself away from the game to record, edit, and post this. Setting up the green screen, microphone, sound treatment, and lighting in my dining area takes time that I could have used upgrading my stupid pretend sword. On the bright side, I am slowly starting to burn myself out. Content is kind of becoming dull and repetitive to grind, and that's more or less all endgame is in 11. My desire to return to my projects is increasing. Just yesterday, I took a trip out to a friend's workplace to get photographs to use as video game backgrounds. I am also reviewing and giving notes on artwork submitted by the project's very talented artist. But those are easy things to do. What I need to be doing is writing, and I can't give that my full attention if I'm stricken with Vanadil fever. It is worth keeping in mind that if you are predisposed to any kind of addiction, you may be prone to other kinds as well. One of the reasons I recently started on anti-anxiety medication was to finally address the gaping anxiety void that my dependency left behind. I needed something to replace alcohol's calming effects in order to function, and so far, this seems to be doing all right. But I'll probably save that for another episode. Regardless, I have noticed a pattern in my behavior of diving headlong into a new video game grind when my anxiety hits a certain level. I did it with Suikoden speedrunning, I did it with FF6 speedrunning, and I'm doing it right now with FF11. Hopefully, being properly medicated will reduce this tendency in the future. Here's a couple questions that folks left on the previous video. Jake Spencer writes, I have an outsider's question about Japanese drinking culture. Here in these United States, belligerent jerks definitely exist, and many people do feel pressured to drink, but I've personally found a simple no thanks or nah, I don't drink is generally accepted without much discussion. Can Japanese salarymen get away with that? Definitely. I think it's becoming more common, but there are still pitfalls. The corporate drinking parties that would come through the door at Critical Hit were generally very chill, with no outward coercion, but in Japanese culture, this sort of thing is simmering below the surface. Do I think a new hire did too many tequila shots after losing at Mario Kart because of social pressure to do so? I do. And here's the thing about tequila shots, they don't make you better at Mario Kart. So this same kid kept losing and having to do more shots instead of just saying, what? No, this is a nightmare. A lot of things unsaid are still implied in Japanese culture, and sometimes tough shit dry bones is one of them. But that sort of thing was rare. I would just as often see young salarymen come in with a group and order a soft drink like it was no big deal. The acceptance of non-drinkers is for sure rising in Japan. Thanks, Jake! One controller port writes, for the drinking culture in Japan, have you or other people you know found any substitute for building relations outside of these drinking parties? Or, alternatively, are there any general thoughts on how to get the benefits of attending these meetings while still drinking a responsible amount? I feel in America the typical advice is to stop going to the bar and go volunteer or participate in local activities to build relations with your community. Building new relationships as an adult kinda sucks no matter where you live or what you do. But local activities are generally a good starting point. Nagoya, like I assume most cities in Japan, has a good selection. If you're a writer, there are writing events at the library. If you're a musician, there are dozens of open mics and scheduled events you can sign up for. Rec league sports, archery, taiko drumming, art clubs, they are all great for meeting people with similar interests. I have become considerably less social since closing the bar, but I try to hang out with someone at least once a month. A friend I hadn't seen in 12 years recently moved from Okazaki to Nagoya, and we had a super fun lunch a couple weeks ago that made me glad he reached out. That's all I got for this one. Thank you for watching. Please leave any questions you have in the comments down below, and until next time, your experience and abilities will carry over.